Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper. Today I'm doing my top 5 favourite Pokemon champions. Now, the Pokemon series is quite well known, besides from its Pokemon, I'd say its champions as well, because the champions are basically the strongest trainers in any all of the games that they appear in, whether it's in Sinnoh, Unova, Carlos, whatever. And in this list, I'll be going over some of my personal favourites from the series, and in terms of how I like about them when it comes to their teams or the personality or whatever. So for number 5 is Leon from Sword and Shield. Now with Leon, you've practically find out that he's the champion from the first, I would say, 5-10 minutes of the game. And I think this is the first time you know about this, because I think so. Either that or Order. From Black and White, I think because I think both Leon and Order are the only champions that you know are champions or something like that before you fight them in the Pokemon League. And what I like about Leon is that he's got this sort of like bright optimism, I would say, with him, because he wants you to challenge him and he wants you to become the best trainer that you are, along with your rival. And I would say he's a cool character. I would say he's one of the more laid back champions, I would say, and he's got quite an interesting team, because he's got a Aegislash, Haxorus, one of the new dragon types. It's the Ghost Dragon type. I forgot what his name is, but it's that one. Either a Seismitoad, a Mr. Rhyme, I believe, or the evolved form of Rhyhorn, and as well as the Pokemon that is super effective against yours, as well as its main ace, Charizard. And yeah, that's a quite interesting team, but it still feels a bit easy, because you'll probably have a lot of Pokemon, or some of your Pokemon might have moves or types that are good against those Pokemon, and yeah, it would probably feel easy. I think it still feels easy just to fight him, because his team is quite. I would say it's an interesting type with a big mixture of Pokemon. It's just it could have been a bit better maybe, and yeah, but it's still fine. I think it's still a fine team, but yeah, overall I would say Leon is quite an interesting champion. For number 4 is Blue from the original Red and Blue games. Now with Blue, his personality is very, very different to Leon's in the way that he's your main rival throughout the course of that game, or those games, and he is kind of an arsehole, I would say, to put it bluntly, because he's always one step ahead of you. He always has, a lot of strong Pokemon, and I really like how when you get to fight him in the Pokemon League, when he becomes the champion, and when you become champion and beat Blue, it feels victorious in a sort of sense. It feels great, because you've been on his tail practically throughout the whole course of the game, because he's always ahead of you, like on the SS Anne when he's already there, and when he's collecting all the different gym badges, that kind of thing. And yeah, I think in terms of when it comes to rivals, one of the, I would say, quite interesting one, and yeah, it's quite fun to fight against, and I think I do enjoy his team. I do like how I always chose Charizard, or Charmander in Red and Blue, and I do like it how it feels better, cool, cause when he chooses Squirtle, Blue does, because it kind of feels like these two opposing brutes. Venusaur's okay, but yeah. But overall, I'll say Blue's a quite interesting challenge, and as quite cool way of making a rival the champion, and I really do hope we get to see more of this in the future. For number 3 is Diantha. Now Diantha, when compared to a lot of the other champions in the series, is probably one of the most easiest ones to fight against, mainly because the whole of X and Y was made easier because of the experience share being turned on for all Pokemon. And yeah, I would say she's an easy champion to fight against, but she's one of my favourites just because of the way the way her Pokemon is using the team, as well as her ace, Gardevoir, can Mega Evolve, and that's a really cool concept because like with Leon in Sword and Shield when those games were released, Leon could Dynamax or Gigantamax his Charizard, and that's basically what Diantha did in X and Y a few generations before Sword and Shield. And I really like the whole Mega Evolution fighting technique. I think it's an interesting way of battling Pokemon, and I really do wish some of the gyms did that in a sort of sense, in terms of they had a Pokemon that they could Mega Evolve, maybe, or you could rematch them later on, and they could have a Pokemon that could Mega Evolve, maybe. But yeah, I really do enjoy Diantha as a whole, just because she can bring a lot of these Pokemon, like she's got a Gourgeist, I believe, a Harlucha, and a Morus, a Tyranitar, a Gardevoir, and a what's the dragon? It's not. I forgot what it was called. But yeah, she's got a really cool amount of Pokemon, and yeah, I think she's a really cool and interesting champion. For number 2 is Steven Stone from the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire remakes. Now, Steven, I would say, from the ORAS games, in my personal experience, is a really good challenge of a champion, because his team is mainly steel, but he's got some non-steel types. He's got some of the steel types. He's got an Aggron and a Metagross, and yeah, and he's got a Skarmory as well. But then he's got a Credoli, I believe, a Claydol, and one other Pokemon I don't 100% remember. But yeah, I think Steven Stone is a real challenge, and I also like how in the ORAS remakes, his Metagross can Mega Evolve. Do you think it's a really cool concept? Because that game, or those 2 remakes, just take some of the ideas from X and Y and bring it over to those games, like how your rival can also Mega Evolve their Pokemon or their starter Pokemon, and I think that's a really cool way of bringing new life to the original Ruby and Sapphire games. And yeah, I would say he's a really good challenge of a champion, just because of how his team works and how he also uses Mega Evolution. And for number 1 is Cynthia from Diamond and Pearl and Platinum. Now, Cynthia is probably the most obvious choice out there, because she is the most tough challenge or tough champion out there, and I would say, yeah, I would always have Cynthia at the top of a good challenge of when it comes to boss type fights, because she probably has one of the most toughest mix of Pokemon in any Pokemon game when it comes to the champions, because she's got a Togekiss, a Gastrodon. I think those change depending on which version you're playing, either playing Diamond and Pearl or Platinum. She's got a Lucario, she's got a Roserade, she's got a Milotic, she's got another Pokemon that I've forgotten. Oh yeah, Spiritomb, as well as her ace, Garchomp, which is basically a monster. That Pokemon, her Garchomp, is probably the most toughest, the toughest dragon out there. She is so tough to beat, Cynthia, and it does feel satisfying when you finally take out the last Pokemon, because it's just it feels like an accomplishment, and it kind of feels like how with Blue, when you beat them, it feels like you've beaten your rival. It feels like some sort of accomplishment because you've beaten your rival. It feels with Cynthia, it feels like 100 times more of that, because even though she's not technically your rival, she still is the most toughest and most challenging champion out there, and her Pokemon has a lot of moves that can probably KO your team if you aren't careful enough. And I would say try and bring a lot of revives and healing items as you can, just so you can have them for the final fight. And yeah, I would say overall Cynthia is such a challenge, and I do like how um, in Pokemon Legends Arceus you do get her ancestor in a sort of sense, because there's like this final like major trainer fight, and yeah, that one with I would say Cynthia's ancestor, I believe, that is also a challenge just because he uses similar or practically the same Pokemon as Cynthia, and then on top of that you have to fight Giratina as well, both his normal form and his spirit form thing. So yeah, so that's been my top 5 favourite Pokemon champions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.